Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and I want to talk about the Valkyrie today. And no, I'm not talking about that Tom Cruise anti-Hitler killing movie, even though that was a pretty good flick. Anyway, the Valkyrie is now on the player test server for you to get in, fly around, etc. And I'm going to tell you this though, the populations are pretty low on the player test server right now, and everyone's excited to fly the Valkyrie, which is great. But that also means that finding gunners or pilots is not really an easy feat. I've been just standing on the ground and yelling for gunners. I've stood in the gate and yelled for people to pick me up or use the request transport queue button. But a lot of times, nothing happens. It seems like people are just kind of in their own world at the moment. So just keep that in mind. So if you're not really sure what the Valkyrie is, it's basically a ship in size between the Liberator and the ESFs that's designed as a transport ship. Now, it comes with a main gun with varying options, as well as 2 rumble seats. The pilot has no weapon. And there's varying different, weapons that you can use. The thing actually looks quite a bit like a Reaver in a lot of ways, at least to me. So what do I think about the Valkyrie in its first iteration? I'm so glad you asked. Frankly, I'm not really that crazy about it, but I do have a few reasons that I want to highlight right here. The first issue is, and this isn't the Valkyrie's fault, is the PTS is kind of busted. And by that, I mean you can't really remap your keys right now. That means that I can't really get a true feel to how it would perform on live, because it handles a little bit differently since I have things like pitch up bound and analog throttle and all those things. So it feels different than it probably would if I was able to change things up. I guess that's more of a disclaimer than a real issue with the Valkyrie, but whatever. The first real issue with the Valkyrie is that the thing is just really slow, and for a transport ship that is fairly lightly armored, it moves at a snail's pace. Now, granted, there's an airframe upgrade that does make it a little bit more tolerable, but it just doesn't feel right for the role based on the lack of its top speed. In addition, the thing feels very weak. ESFs are far more nimble, far quicker, and can do a lot of damage without taking a whole lot in return. Now, I'm not saying the Valkyrie should dominate ESFs. In fact, I don't think that should be the case at all, especially because fighters should be just that, or maybe an interceptor role. But right now, it's not even close. And when you talk about Liberators, forget about it. The Tank Buster, even mildly sorted up, can almost completely take you down. A Dalton shot's going to put you on fire. It's a 2-hit kill from AP rounds on tanks. And basically, they just are really clunky flying, and they're pretty easy targets. So, with all that in mind, you've got a slow, weak ship that's not a good combo when you're talking about a transport vehicle. Another issue with the Valkyrie is that it's just outclassed in its purpose. Right now the Galaxy feels like it's similar in speed, and I say similar because we don't have a HUD yet, so it's really kind of hard to tell how fast you're going in the Valkyrie. The Galaxy has much more armor, it's got 4 guns, you can instant action into it, and you only need 1 pilot. To carry the same number of troops in Valkyries, you're going to need 3 pilots, 3 people to man the guns, and 4 total passengers. 6 total passengers. So, the resource cost to accomplish the same thing is way higher to pull Valkyries than it would be just to pull a single Galaxy. And then you have 3 players from your squad that are out of the fight instead because, they're piloting the ship. So unless you're going to just abandon the ship, you're down to 9 people fighting on the ground, meaning you're less effective. Oh. And did I mention that you can't have maxes in Valkyries either? So yeah, that's another point for the Galaxy. Now, I do feel the Galaxy should be the king of transport, but the Valkyrie just pales in comparison to it. It's not even close at this point. And I don't see much of a point to the Valkyrie, except for maybe if you actually only have to have 3 people to transport, and you don't want to spend the resources, then maybe, if some changes were made, the Valkyrie would be a good choice to pull then. So, if it fails as a transport compared to the Galaxy, is it even a viable combat option? And honestly, it's hard to give you a real answer on that right now, because I've had issues getting gunners and pilots, but based on what I've seen, it's mildly effective. Mildly. Now, it may be different if you had a capable pilot, a capable gunner, and 2 heavies to kind of keep spamming rockets from the side, but even that would only really be so good, especially considering rockets are so squirrely anyway. So, in addition, the rumble seats, the extra firepower of your heavies sitting on the sides, may as well be renamed something like suicide seats because it's so damn easy to get shot out of there. And when you think about that, it's not really the safest transport option out there either. So, I know a lot of that's been pretty negative, but I feel it's for good reason. Based on where it sits right now, it feels more like a novelty than a practical vehicle. If you want to go with a combat option, an ESF or a Liberator is going to be leaps and bounds better. If you want to go with a transport option, Galaxy all day long, not even close. So it just doesn't have a place in the current lineup. Now, I do feel like that could change with some adjustments. First and foremost, it needs to be faster. I would even sacrifice a little bit of agility to gain that. And the Valkyrie is fairly agile, which is probably one of its stronger attributes. But even losing a little bit of that to get the speed feels like it probably would help fit the role a little bit better. Another thing that probably needs to happen is it needs to carry 6 people. 4 is not enough. That'd make it actually fit more of an actual transport role, lets it compete with the Galaxy a little bit better, and really would help out with squad play significantly. Now, there's a lot of threads out there about this topic, specifically the number of seats that this thing actually has, but I'm going to put a link to one of my outfit mates who made a Reddit thread that got a lot of attention, basically explaining his feelings very clearly overall about the Valkyrie, but specifically I like the parts where he's talking about the number of people that it can carry. So, that'll be in the description. But basically, it makes a lot of sense, and I feel the general consensus of the community right now is that they feel the same way. So, I'm going to be doing a follow-up video after testing some of the weapons options for the Valkyrie. Once I get those opinions up and running, I might have a different feeling overall, but frankly, based on theory and numbers alone, I feel this vehicle needs some major reworking to be a relevant option once it actually hits the live servers. So that's it for now. Go out, test it yourselves. Again, I'll put another link to download the PTS if you haven't yet, and let me know how you feel about it. So that's it. I'll catch you guys all later. Take care. Have a good day.